International Criminal Court in The Hague.
The International Criminal Court's prosecutor has requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his defense chief Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders over alleged war crimes. ICC prosecutor Karim Khan said in a statement on Monday that he had reasonable grounds to believe that all bear criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. The Hamas leaders' arrest warrants were for the group's chief, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed al-Masri, the commander-in-chief of its military wing, and Ismail Haniyeh, head of its political bureau.
Those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my office takes action based upon solid evidence. That day has come. Today we underline in the clearest possible fashion that international law and the laws of armed conflict apply to everyone. No foot soldier, no commander, no civilian leader, no one can act with impunity.
Israeli War Cabinet's Minister Benny Gantz said accepting the ICC prosecutor's decision, quote, would harm the ability of any country to defend its citizens and will constitute a crime of historic proportion. Gallant and Netanyahu have overseen Israel's offensive against Hamas in Gaza since the Palestinian militant group's deadly October 7th raid on Israel. Some 1,200 people were killed and more than 250 taken hostage in the rampage, according to Israeli tallies. Since then, at least 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war in Gaza, according to the enclave's health ministry, and aid agencies have also warned of widespread hunger, a risk of famine, and dire shortages of fuel and medical supplies. Israeli and Palestinian leaders have both previously dismissed allegations of committing war crimes. Khan said evidence collected by his office showed Israel has systematically deprived civilians of objects indispensable to human survival, including restricting food, water, medicine and energy. Netanyahu and Gallant bore responsibility, he said, for Israel willfully causing great suffering and for killing as a war crime. The Hamas leaders face allegations of bearing responsibility for crimes committed by the militant group, including extermination and murder, the taking of hostages, torture, rape and other acts of sexual violence. It will now be up to a panel of pre-trial judges to determine whether the evidence from the ICC prosecutor's office supports the issuing of arrest warrants. The ICC's 124 member states are obliged to immediately arrest the wanted person if they are on a member state's territory. However, it has no means to enforce arrest warrants, and its investigation into the Gaza war has been opposed by the United States and Israel, neither of whom are members of the ICC.
The majority.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I would like to begin with a statement about the ICC prosecutor's announcement from earlier this morning. The ICC prosecutor's decision seeking arrest warrants for Israeli leaders alongside Hamas terrorists is not only profoundly unfair, but it is reprehensible. As disappointing as the ICC's decision is, it comes as no surprise, because for decades and decades, the ICC has shown it harbors deep biases against Israel. This decision, suggesting an equivalency between Israel and Hamas, is another glaring example of that bias against Israel. As I have said many times, there has never been and there can never be any equivalence between Israel's right to defend itself against terror and Hamas's barbarity. The ICC's decision seeking warrants against Israeli leaders is not only shameful, but also fails to follow protocol and process in a country where it has zero jurisdiction. I fiercely oppose the ICC's decision, and I will work with President Biden and members on all sides to keep support for Israel strong and unwavering.
Madam President.
The Republican leader.
Today, the most noxious attempt at moral equivalence comes from unelected international bureaucrats brandishing a contrived and perverted authority. In the same breath, the self-aggrandizing prosecutor of the International Criminal Court applied for arrest warrants for both Hamas chief terrorists and Israel's duly elected prime minister. It's a damning development, but not for the supposed subjects of the application. The ICC has succeeded only in discrediting itself even further as a rogue kangaroo court utterly untethered to morality or justice. Well, today's news lays down another gauntlet. It's time for the President and other Western leaders to finally pick it up, support Israel's right to defend itself against terrorist savages like Sinwar, reject the fiction that unaccountable bureaucrats in The Hague have any power over a sovereign nation that isn't a signatory to its authority. Commit to imposing significant costs on the court and its agents if it pursues shameful and baseless charges against Israel. And choose once and for all between actual justice and the rule of the loud campus mob.
Question to you is, given the fact that you have made billions of dollars, that your company has made huge profits, on behalf of the taxpayers of this country, will you reconsider your decision to quadruple the price of the vaccine?
הצו האבסורדי והשקרי של התובע בהאג לא מכוון רק נגד ראש ממשלת ישראל ונגד שר הביטחון. הוא מכוון נגד מדינת ישראל כולה. הוא מכוון נגד חיילי צה"ל שנלחמים בגבורה עילאית במרצחי החמאס השפלים שתקפו אותנו באכזריות נוראה ב7 באוקטובר. התובע בהאג, באיזה חוצפה אתה מעז להשוות בין מפלצות החמאס לבין חיילי צה"ל, הצבא המוסרי ביותר בעולם? באיזה חוצפה אתה משווה בין החמאס שרצח ושרף וביטר וערף ואנס וחטף את אחינו ואחיותינו, לבין חיילי צה"ל שנלחמים מלחמה צודקת שאין כמוה במוסריות שאין דומה לה? כראש ממשלת ישראל, אני דוחה בשעת נפש את ההשוואה של התובע בהאג בין ישראל הדמוקרטית לבין רבי המרצחים של החמאס. זה עיוות מוחלט של המציאות.
The announcement of the prosecutor of the ICC is beyond outrageous and shows the extent to which the international judicial system is in danger of collapse. Taken in bad faith, this one-sided move represents a unilateral political step that emboldens terrorists around the world and violates all the basic rules of the court according to the principles of international law, complementarity, and other legal norms. Hamas's leaders are oppressive dictators, guilty of launching mass murder, mass rape, mass kidnapping of men, women, and children. Any attempt to draw parallels between these atrocious terrorists and a democratically elected government of Israel working to fulfill its duty to defend and protect its citizens entirely in adherence with the principles of international law is outrageous and cannot be accepted by anyone. We will not forget who started this war, who raped, butchered, burnt, brutalized, and kidnapped innocent civilians and families. We will not forget our hostages, whose safe return should be the main concern of the international community. We expect all leaders in the free world to condemn outright this step and firmly reject it.
واضح تماما أنه قرار أو التوجه لإصدار قرار من المحكمة الجنائية الدولية فيما يتعلق بجرائم الاحتلال وما يقوم به في إطار حرب الإبادة، والتي تحدثنا بشكل واضح تماما منذ سنوات طويلة حول أهمية أن لا تستخدم المحكمة الجنائية الدولية المعايير المزدوجة والكيل بمكيالين عندما يتعلق الأمر بالاحتلال، لأنه شاهدنا في مناطق أخرى من العالم يكون هناك إسراع في اتخاذ القرار، ولكن فيما يتعلق لدينا هنا في فلسطين المحتلة يكون الأمر مختلف تماما.
I think you can be reasonably confident the reaction will be negative in the extreme from Israel. I don't know what Hamas will say, but it is quite interesting, to me at least, to remember that in 2014, after the last major conflict, something called Operation Protective Edge, one of the 5 people, one of the 3 Palestinians from Gaza, Ismail Hanea, was interviewed by me. And he said he would welcome the ICC being involved at that stage.
I think it's a disgrace. I mean, the hypocrisy of the court in Hague. The fact, first of all, these warrants are against the Israelis, not just against the Prime Minister and against the Defense Israeli Minister. It's against us, the Israelis. And definitely after October 7th, to come to us, to the Israelis, because the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister of Israel. If you agree with him or not, he's still my Prime Minister.
يعني حماس كيف بدها تكون اللي هو مجرم حرب اللي هو يعاقبوا عليها انه مجرم حرب تمام واحنا محتلين. واحد بدافع عن ارضه هذا هو بده يكون صاحب جرائم حرب. اللي بده يعاقب المفروض تمام امريكا واسرائيل، اسرائيل اللي احتلتنا في 48. يعني انا واحد منتهك، واحد خش بيتي، بديش ادافع عن نفسي؟ المفروض اني ادافع عن نفسي بكل وسائل الله خلقها بالدنيا، بسلاح بالسلم، المهم بدي اخذ حقي. واللي عملته هذه المحكمه الدوليه للامانه تواطؤوا مع الاحتلال وتواطؤوا مع امريكا قبل كل شيء.